Romans chapter 13, verse 1. 2 months before a presidential election. By the way, there's like elections that are important every year. I just want to throw that in here real quick. I'm going to speak to that more in a couple of weeks on a Sunday. Elections, community elections, state elections, federal elections, they all matter. Like, this isn't the only one that matters. We have a responsibility to register and make our voice known as followers of God. I even think we'll give an account for being Americans and taking the time to go cast our vote. Verse 1, chapter 13. I just felt like that was important. Let every person, oh, come on, Paul, be subject to the governing authorities. For there is no authority. This is such a big verse, like even a portion. There is no authority, teacher, coach, principal, school board member, mayor, governor, congressman, woman, king, president. There is no authority except from God. No authority. There was no Roman Caesar. There was no Roman governor. There was no priest, high priest, except from God. And those that exist have been instituted by God. Now, as a pastor, I see that as a great responsibility, that He's given me spiritual authority, and I will give an account for the authority that God has given me. I'm going to say this carefully. Our staff will not give an account for the authority that God has given me. Our staff will give an account for how they honor the authority that God has given me. Despite the individual that I may or may not be, they are called to honor the authority. I've been a staff member. I was called to honor the authority of the position, despite whether the person was honorable or not. We honor the position despite the person. All right, because why? Verse 1. Those instituted have been instituted by God. Verse 1, here's your note. There's one authority. It's God's. It's God's authority. Let every person be subject to governing authorities, for there's no authority except from God. So there's one authority, and it's God. So your boss, your CEO, your company owner, your union director, your principal, coach, teacher, anybody that is positional authority in your life, there is no authority. That's like I don't like to make doctrine out of one verse. But Paul wrote this to the Romans in the epicenter of the Greco-Roman Empire. These people were godless. The Roman Senate, godless. Caesar thought he was God. Roman governor like Pontius Pilate, godless. King Agrippa, King Herod, these people who had aligned themselves with the Roman Empire, absolutely godless. And Paul writes to these believers in Rome and says, hey, listen, I know it's not good. They're godless, but God allowed it. So instead of despising the people that you disagree with, if you get a chance, you have to discuss respectfully. I think, and you'd have to look up the chapter. I don't want to give you bad info. I should have done it for you. I'm sorry. But I think that Paul, the Apostle Paul, standing before King Agrippa towards the end of his life in the later chapters of the book of Acts, is a great example of how we're supposed to respond to authorities that aren't honorable. We honor even if they are not. So instead of allowing myself, and I'm with you. Hear my heart. Hear me. Like this is my human heart. Hear my humanity. Instead of allowing myself to hate someone, I force myself to pray for them. And I won't start naming names, but there are some people I cannot, in my spirit, I don't think it was God's spirit necessarily, I can't stand them. I can't stand to listen to them. I have to turn them off. And instead of allowing myself to be offended or spiteful or hating someone, I force myself to pray for them, because there is no authority except that which is from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Verse 2, therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed. Okay, so I think it's really important that you understand, like, this is a whole passage on this. And so before we begin forming militias, well, what about the Revolutionary War? What about the Revolutionary War? What about justified rebellions? Okay, hang on. I want you to understand that before you do that, before you resist the authority or resist what God has allowed, even appointed, go look up the original Greek there, and those who resist will incur judgment. Okay? What you need to understand is Paul's not saying the Revolutionary War was sin. Okay? I don't think. What I believe, and I've read multiple commentaries, and everybody's got an opinion on this interpretation. Here's where I've kind of landed. You prayerfully consider it. What I'm saying is, if you're going to do that, you need to understand that you better be really careful, because if you do it, you're going to stand before God on it, and God is going to judge you according to his perfect judgment. So you better know that you know that what you did was God, because he's the one that you're going to stand before. Verse 2, there is judgment for resistance. Now, it's righteous judgment. It's perfect judgment. And judgment has a bad stigma. We think judgment like, judge, oh, we're going to be judged. No. You're going to stand before God and give an account. And he may say, that was necessary. You needed to defend that unborn child. That was absolute. You needed to fight against the, my Lord, molestation of children, as pedophiles try to jump on the we should be able to be attracted to whoever we want train. You should have fought. That whole crew mutilating children in the name of gender identity. Yeah. You should fight that one. I'm on board there. I think God expects us to do something, but you need to understand that there will be judgment even for that. Judgment for resistance. There will be judgment for resistance. You will incur judgment. It doesn't mean that you're going to be cast into hell. It means God's going to judge that standard and the heart behind the habit. So we need to be careful. When is resistance justified? Well, I think resistance is justified under the guise of abuse. Resistance is justified when the innocent are exposed. We can have all these conversations. There's a place. It's not just because you're losing some of your comforts or your preferences or even your rights as an American citizen. And we can have conversation. We can discuss that thing respectfully. We can maintain honor with the dishonorable. We can do it. Come on, church. We can do it. But you begin to take advantage of the innocent, and you've raised a new side of me. I think of like Nehemiah. Hey, we're going to go work with a hammer in one hand and a sword in the other. And I don't want to show you this side, but I ain't afraid to turn. Because I will stand for those who are not able to stand for themselves. Abuse. Another time to resistance is if the government tries to force sinful activity, tries to force or impress upon us things that Jesus died for. Now, some people try to apply this stuff to taxes. I think that's a cop-out because they put their faith in money. That's my personal opinion. I don't even know if that's biblical or not. But I say that Jesus, this part is biblical. Jesus did say, look, you render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Like, that's it. Who cares? Whose face is on that bill? Whose face is on that coin? Yeah. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But render unto God what is God's. That's what matters. So give them their money. They'll stand in judgment for what they do with that money. That's not my problem. I don't steal, cheat, or hide and call it justified because of what the government spends my money on. No. I'm not there. I'm not there. Some people are. I'm not. They sin, their problem. Okay? I'm not responsible for what they do with their authority. That's their problem. They will stand before God and give an account of that. I can have a voice. I can do it honorably. I can do it with civility. And I can do it respectfully. Paul did the same thing with King Agrippa. But if the government attempts to force sinful activity, for instance, let's use the marriage thing, and this is right at 12 minutes. I got to get to the last part, but let's use the marriage, like same-sex marriage, multiple people being married. Okay, I still believe that we should get a marriage license with the state of Louisiana. We should honor the governing authorities, and we shouldn't just perform ceremonies in somebody's backyard and call that holy matrimony. I believe part of this is me, okay? I have people in our church that disagree with this. I believe part of holy matrimony is an ordained minister, an officiant with credentials, registered with the state, and a couple who have also gotten a marriage certificate coming together legally in the eyes of the state in which they dwell, the governing authority of which they are under, and receive at least some benefits from. And that those two people make a covenant with God on behalf of one another. That for me is holy matrimony. Other people have different ideas of that. That's me. Because the validity of the marriages that I perform are already questioned in this culture. Because the church said, well, you can't even, it's not even a marriage unless it's done by this leader at this place. That's not, your wedding doesn't even count. Okay, so the validity of marriages that I, as an ordained minister with the Assemblies of God, do is already in question. So I'm going to do that way. Well, the state doesn't even define marriage properly, and that's their problem. Now, if they came in and tried to force me to do a same-sex marriage or a marriage between two men or two men and one woman or one man and two women or an adult and an underage individual, no, I will resist that, and I will happily stand before God that I resisted it. But even the right thing, the wrong way is still the wrong thing. Are you with me? One more verse. You ready? For rulers are not a terror of good conduct. They're a terror of bad conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Who's the one authority? God. God is the one who is in authority. Then do what is good. Do what is good, and you will receive his approval. I'm going to come back to verse 4 next week. Here's all I want you to write down. Do what is good. Do what is good. We'll pick this up next week, but do what is good. Remember your three. First 3 verses of Romans chapter 13. I know it's a lot. This one's heavy, and it's timely. Heavy and timely. There's one authority, and it's God. There's judgment for resistance. So when you resist, you better make sure that you're doing it the right way. Or you better respectfully stand and speak and have conversations and not stay silent. Speak up, but do it with honor. And then number 3, we do what is good. Why? So that they can't question our character. And by not being able to question our character, they can't question our God. But they'll stand before him and give an account. So instead of despising them, we pray. And then we produce godly character to exemplify the one who sent us. By your good works, they will glorify God. Hey, God bless you. Thank you for watching.